fellow mushroom people, and welcome to this video. It's time for my August wrap-up. It has been time for my August wrap-up for, I don't know, 9 days now, so I'm a bit late. I'm sorry for that. But I had my reasons. I was very obsessed with One Piece, but now I'm finally done. So I've caught up. I'm at the latest chapter now, so there's no new material for me to devour, which has led to me reading more. So that's a great thing, right? Also, I read 11 books in August, which is a very high number. Let me tell you that September won't be as great. I know that my TBR has been a bit ambitious, but like I said, One Piece kind of kept me from reading anything else. So I don't think that September will be nearly as good. But we're not here to talk about September yet. We had to talk about August, and August was a very good reading month. Probably the best one I've had so far in my life, I think. And not all of those books were short books. I think most of them were quite regular length books. Some were even a bit longer. So let's just get through those books one by one. I want to start with the middle grade, then move on to the YA, and end with the adult books. So yeah. The first book I want to talk about is the only middle grade that I read in August, and that is Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is one of the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, which features middle grade stories that are inspired by different mythologies. So Arusha is one of those books, and Dragon Pearl, which I read, I think, in July. So Race to the Sun is about a young girl who lives a quite regular life, and then she gets thrown into this grand adventure and meets a lot of Native American deities and myths that she never thought were real, but spoiler alert, they are. So she has to keep a horde of monsters from coming into our world, and she goes on her adventure. The structure of the story is quite similar to the Percy Jackson books, and I didn't mind that. So I went into the story expecting exactly that, like a Percy Jackson-like story, but inspired by different mythologies. And yeah, it was a fun story. So this book was a buddy read with Lawrence from Reading with Lawrence, and I think we both had a good time. So this was quite a fun, adventure-y, middle grade book that had a Native American protagonist and just very adventurous. So it was very fast-paced. There was a lot of action. It wasn't really that deep, but like I said, that was not what I was expecting, and I got exactly what I came for, and I was satisfied. So I don't think that I will ever reread this book. Maybe. I don't know. I'll be keeping it for now, but if you're in the mood for an adventurous, fast-paced, middle-grade story, pick it up. The next book that I finished is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first YA book that I finished in August, I think. Skyward is about a girl who lives on a planet called Detritus, I think. And this planet is surrounded by space debris, so no one can really get out or get in, except for those presumed alien creatures who come around on a regular basis and attack the planet and the people living on it. So there's a bunch of fighter pilots defending the humans from those alien invaders, and Spin, our protagonist, she wants to be one of them, which turns out to be not that easy because her father is considered a traitor among the other people on the planet, so they don't really want to have Spin around. So her becoming a fighter pilot is very hard. I don't know, I was looking for another word. Yeah, but yeah, so space fighting, pilot fighting. This book was good. I think. Yeah, it was. I enjoyed reading it. But I don't think that I want to continue reading the series. So the good thing about this book is that it has all this Brandon Sanderson world building thing going on. And the characters are very likable as well. I think they all fit together very well and they have a great chemistry and the relationships are also very well done. All that is good. I always have that feeling with Brandon Sanderson's book that the world and the characters, they all fit together very well. That there's nothing amiss or that there are things that don't fit in. They are always very well done. So this book was the same. But on the other hand, the ending didn't leave me wanting to read more about this world. I have to admit that I'm not that interested in fighter pilots, and even though they have this kind of spaceship, there are still more or less your usual jet pilot things. And I think it's hard to make fighter pilot action interesting, at least for me, so I don't really feel the need to read about that. It was all kind of, yeah, they're in their fighter pilot thingy and shooting and doing stuff. Don't get me wrong, the stuff the planes, they're not really planes, the starships could do were very interesting. So that was all okay, but it's just not my thing. And the ending was just, I was looking for more, to be honest. I was expecting a kind of bigger twist than I got, and nah, I don't think that the series will change in the later installments, so I don't think that it will be that much to my liking. But it was a fun book, and if you're interested in space fights and pilots and all that kind of stuff, pick it up. It will be the book for you, but it wasn't the book for me, unfortunately. So moving on to another book that wasn't for me. Gearbreakers by Zoe Hana Mikuta. So when I first picked up this book, I said it was about sapphic romance and giant robots. So what could go wrong? Many things, apparently. I'm kind of sorry for not liking this book because the premise itself isn't half bad. So we have the rebels, the Gearbreakers, who are fighting those giant robots who come from the nation called Godalia, and they are basically destroying all these surrounding places, and they belong to a kind of draconic regime. And on the other hand, we have the fighter pilot. I already forgot the names. So we have two girls on the opposite sides of a giant conflict, and spoiler alert, they fall in love. I didn't really enjoy this book. There was not that much that I really liked about either the world building or the characters. I think the two main characters, they were okay. I didn't really like them that much. They were not my kind of characters. I don't know. I couldn't really relate to them. And the what's the word? Supporting cast. The supporting cast. So those Gearbreakers, they always move in a team because when you want to bring down a giant robot, you need more than one person. So for me, the team, they were all the same person. I couldn't really differentiate between them. I don't know. And so another nitpick that I have, that all the chapters were from the first person perspective. So we switched between Sona and Eris. That were the people's names, the girls, to the two girls. And sometimes I got confused about in whose head we were at the moment. Maybe that has to do with me not being that interested and being not a very attentive reader at some points, because in the end I just wanted to finish this book because I was reading it for the readathon. But for me, I think I would have DNF'd this if it hadn't been for the readathon. I just didn't like this, unfortunately. It just wasn't my kind of book. Next we have The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. So this book, I picked it up because the cover looked nice and it was cheap. So I got it for my Kindle, and when I was laying in bed with my girlfriend, I was like, I want to read something, and she was like, read that. So she pointed to The Black Flamingo, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I started reading it, and I found out that it was written in verse, and that there were kind of pictures attached. So I think this is one of those books that I would have never picked up the Kindle version of, just because of how it is constructed and how it looks and how it is supposed to be read, I think. But I had the Kindle version and I read the Kindle version and I enjoyed this book very much. So The Black Flamingo is about a boy who it's a coming of age story. So he's growing up and he's gay, and he is very interested in drag, and he moves on with his life. There's all those troubles that he has to get over, and it was just very touching and a very well done book. And I think that many people could profit from reading this. So whether or not you're questioning your sexuality, I just think that The Black Flamingo is a very good book for anyone who wants to find out more about growing up gay. Yeah, I think you could say that. I really like the characters. It was all very, very interesting. The writing in verse didn't really bother me at all. So it doesn't read that differently from a regular novel. And I think the shorter poems that were strewn into the story from time to time, they really added to the experience, and I really enjoyed reading this book, and I can only recommend it. But I would pick up the physical book. If I had known beforehand how this book looked, I wouldn't have picked up the Kindle version of it. But yeah, I don't regret reading this at all. It was a very good book, and I can only recommend it. So the next YA book I read is A Lesson in Vengeance by Victoria Lee. So this book took my Dark Academia virginity. It was the first Dark Academia book that I read. It's a fairly new release, and I think it plopped up somewhere on my Amazon account, and I was like, yeah, sure, why not? So I was listening to the audiobook, and I finished this, I think, in 2 days. So it was a very fast read. I wanted to know what was happening, and just let me tell you what it's about. So A Lesson in Vengeance is about a girl who attends a very prestigious dark academia. Okay, it's not called a dark academia, but she attends this very prestigious boarding school. So she's repeating her final year because the year before her then girlfriend died under mysterious circumstances, and now she's back to finish her school and move on with her life. There's also a new girl who at 17 is a published author, and she is very famous. She has also won a Pulitzer Prize, so you know, your regular 17-year-old stuff. And they grow closer, and they want to. So at this school there have been mysterious murders happening, or mysterious deaths. It's not really clear if they are murders or not. So a few 100 years back, 5 girls died, and they may have been witches. Who knows? So I started listening to the audiobook at night when I was home alone. And I don't really get scared that easily, but this book had this very spooky aura. So when I was listening to it alone in bed, I was like, why am I doing this? And so I stopped, and the next day I picked it up again. And it never got spooky again. So apparently this was the only instance of this book getting spooky, which was kind of, yeah, it could have been spookier. I wouldn't have minded. So, like I said, I really enjoyed this book. I really wanted to know what was happening. So in this book, we are never really sure if magic is real or not, and I really like this kind of thing. What I didn't like, though, was the ending. There was a certain point in this book where it went from up here to down here. I hated the ending. I didn't vibe with it at all. It was not satisfying. It didn't feel satisfying to me. So even though I really enjoyed the setting, the plot, the characters, it was all very, I think, dark academic-y, and it got all those vibes. The ending just it just disappointed me, and I'm very sad about that because I really wanted to love this book. But it led me to picking up another dark academia book. So I think that this is a genre I can really enjoy, just because of how twisted and wicked all the stuff is that's going on in this book. And I think that A Lesson in Vengeance had those vibes, and that it did those vibes very well. The ending, though, just wasn't for me. So the final YA book that I read in August is Fire with Fire by Destiny Soria. I won't go into too much detail because I already talked about this book in another video. What I will say, though, is that I had a really good time with this book, and I did not expect to have a good time with this book. No, that's wrong. I didn't expect to have such a good time with this book. It was just a very enjoyable read. It was just a book that I wanted to pick up because it brought me joy. The story was interesting, the characters were very likable, and it was overall just a good book that I liked to read, and so it was very easy to get through. So just a fun book. Yeah, if you want to know more, check out my other video, but it's a good book. Alright, so let's move on to the adult books. Let's get adulty. The first adult book that I finished was Welcome to Night Vale by Josiah Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. So this was a weird one, and I mean weird in a good way. I don't know if you're familiar with the Welcome to Night Vale podcast, which is about a town called Nightville that's somewhere out in the desert, and it's just such a weird place, but weird good. Nothing makes sense. Everything is super weird. And I really, really enjoyed this novel. It was very fun, and I already bought this short story collection which collects the podcast episodes in written format. So I want to dive into that one as well. The novel itself is about a pawn shop owner and a mother who gets kind of tangled up in this weird thing where they end up, like, it's hard to explain. So the pawn shop owner ends up with a piece of paper that says King City, and she just can't get rid of it, so it's stuck to her hand, and whenever she puts it away, it appears again. So she wants to find out more about King City. The other woman, on the other hand, the mother, she has a son who can turn into anything. So he's a shapeshifter, and they have the cutest relationship. Yes, you can really see that it's a mother-son relationship, and that even though they like love each other, it's still not that great sometimes, because teenagers are not the best people in the world at some points. But there's also this mystery about a guy who nobody can remember really. And it's just a very interesting book. There's a lot of weird stuff going on. So if you don't appreciate weird stuff that is never really explained, this is definitely not the book for you. But I had a great time reading this. And if you like these kinds of stories that have this super weird aspects, you might want to check it out. The next book I finished is Arm of the Sphinx by Josiah Bancroft. This is the second in the Tower of Babel series. The Tower of Babel. Books of Babel. It's Books of Babel series. So, I don't know, I was in the mood for it and I had it lying around on my shelf, so I was like, yeah, why not pick it up? I have a review for Sanderson where I said that even though I really like the general world building, that I want to see more of it, and I wasn't the biggest fan of our main character. I think overall the second book was an improvement from the first one. I think that's, for me, it's because of one reason in particular, and that is that we get an expanded cast of characters. So, like I said, Sanderson wasn't my favorite character, and the new characters that are coming into the story, or the ones that we've already met before, that are also present in this book, I really enjoyed reading more about them. It was just that Sanderson was still the main character. Even he got in more interesting. So I didn't mind Sanderson that much in this book. Also, we got more insight into the tower and how everything works and why it is existing. And I just like this world. I want to find out more about it. So I thought that in this book we would visit more ringdoms of the tower. It didn't go quite as I expected. So I was expecting the story to progress in a different way than it did. But nevertheless, it was... I couldn't have asked for a better sequel, I think. So I'm very excited to see where the story goes. I ordered the third book, I don't know, a month ago. Still hasn't arrived. I don't know if I will get it. But when I do, I think I want to pick it up immediately. Just because this book got me hooked so much that I want to continue on with the series as soon as possible. And then I'm looking forward to the ending, the final book in the series coming out later this year. And I want to read it. I'm very excited now. And depending on how the story goes, I think this might be one of my favorite series. So yeah, if you're interested in a kind of weird world that's kind of steampunky, but also very intricate and also very weird, just check out the series. I think it's a very good series and I'm very excited to see how it ends. Okay, so I have 3 books left on my list and I have talked about them in other videos, so we'll just go through them very quickly. So the first one is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This is a shorter novella about a Japanese woman who works at a convenience store, and the convenience store is kind of her whole life. She really enjoys working there, but society wants her to be different because she's in her mid-30s and women are supposed to be married and have children when they're in their mid-30s. So the story deals with her and all those kind of problems, and I think it's a good book. You can watch my review, it's not that long, where I talk about it in more detail. I just enjoyed it and I would recommend anyone to pick it up because it's not that long. So if you don't like it, you don't waste that much time. And I think you could take away something from it. Yeah, I think it's good. I recommend it. The next one is Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan, which I also talked about in another video. This was fun. So if you like stories about two guys who are very bromancy and go on adventures, this is the book for you. I started the second one and then I started reading One Piece, so I haven't gotten that far. But it's also very good. And the supporting cast of characters, I felt like they were even more present in the book than our main characters, and they are all very well written. I really enjoy all the characters in this book, and I'm looking forward to reading more about them, just because I like them so much. And I think it's a very good series, and I think you should check it out. Alright, so the final book that I read in August was The First Sister by Linden A. Lewis, which is a sci-fi story about space nuns and space dualist rebels. Can you say that? I think so. So I listened to the audiobook. I don't know, I was in the mood for some sci-fi, and this kept being recommended to me on Amazon, so I was like, yeah, I'll just pick it up. I didn't expect anything, and I liked it so much. I did a review for it just because I was like, why is no one talking about this book? It's so good. And the sequel came out the day I was doing the review. I'm still listening to the sequel. Like I said, One Piece was my whole life for a few weeks. But the sequel is also very good. And I think it's just a good book. I really, really enjoyed it. And if you're in the mood for a sci-fi story, check it out. If you want to know more about the book, check out the review where I talk about it in detail. But I was surprised by how much I like it. And I think this also has the potential to be one of my new favorite series, depending on how the second one goes. And the third one, which I will have to wait for. That's very sad. But anyway, it's a good book, so check it out. Alright, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed me talking about all those books that I read. Have you read any of those books? Feel free to leave a comment. I would like to talk about any of the books on this list or any other books that you could recommend. So yeah, see you again next time.